Alright, after we saw how to graph the solution of inequality, in this video I want to show you how to use interval notation to write the solution. To know how to write the solution using interval notation, first you should know how to graph the solution. So that's why I showed you this in my previous video. Let me use this example to show you how to use interval notation to write the solution. Now here the solution is x less than or equal to 6. So we go ahead to graph the solution. So the solutions are anything less than or equal to 6. So we should cover every numbers on the on the left hand side of 6. Okay, and at 6 we put a bracket. Okay, now if you have the graph, and if the graph is right, then you should be very easily to find the interval notation. So if we look at this graph, we notice that on the right hand side, the biggest thing is 6. So we put a 6 over here, and we put a bracket, right? And over here you put a comma. Now let's take a look at what is the smallest thing on this area. The smallest thing is the negative infinity, right? We said negative infinity indicates a very, very, very small number. Okay, and since we are not able to reach to the negative infinity, so for negative infinity or positive infinity, we always use parentheses, and the parentheses should point to this direction, right? Should point to the area we cornered. So this is the interval notation when we write the solution into interval notation, right? Very easy, right? Now let me show you another example. Let's say x greater than 3. Let's think about how to use interval notation to represent this solution. So first we will need to we'll need to draw this graph this solution. So now x is greater than 3. So any numbers greater than 3. So we should corner everything on the right side of 3. And at 3 we put a parenthesis like this. Now in this area the smallest thing is 3, right? So we put 3 here, and the biggest thing is the infinity. So put infinity here, and over 3 we have a parenthesis, and over infinity we have another parenthesis. So this is the interval notation. Now let me show you when students are using interval notation, what are the two common mistakes they are making. The first common mistake is they messed up the direction of the parentheses. So they write into this way. Now this is wrong, right? Because remember, the parentheses or the bracket, they should point to the section we cornered, right? And the second common mistake is they messed up the order between infinity and 3. So just remember like this: the smallest thing is always on the left hand side, and the largest thing is always on the right hand side, because this is corresponding to the numbers on this number 9, right? So you can see on this number 9, the smaller number is always on the left hand side of the bigger number, right? So using this way, if we look at the previous examples, if we want to write these three solutions into using interval notation. So this one, because this is our graph, right? So from this graph, the smallest thing is negative infinity, and the comma, the biggest thing is phi. So we put remember, we always use parentheses if it's a negative infinity or positive infinity. And for the phi, because this is equal, so we have a bracket. And let's look at the second example. So for -3 to positive infinity, so -3 is the smallest thing, and the infinity is the biggest thing. And over here we have a parenthesis, and over the infinity we have another parenthesis. And in this example, so from -5 to 10. So we'll go ahead to write down -5 and 10, and over -5 we have a bracket, because this is what we saw from our graph. And over 10 we have a parenthesis.